Welcome back, everyone. This is your favorite show host, Alex Himes with The Ruckus. Yeah, it's a wild time. We're getting wild on the Ruckus, Benz. Let's go. Man, I'm gonna cause a ruckus today, I guess. Welcome back. It's a nice Thursday afternoon. It's beautiful here in Lexington, Kentucky, although I did wake up this morning and it was 62 degrees. I had a sweater on. I got to school at about 9 o'clock and I was already schwitzing and sweating and had sweat running down my back. So that was pretty unfortunate. But today I'd like to start with a story about Tom Petty. Tom Petty unfortunately passed away at the age of 66 just about a day or two ago. I think it was Monday, in fact, at UCLA due to cardiac arrest. He was found passed out at his home, unconscious, not breathing, and unfortunately he was pronounced dead just a couple of days ago. So the story I'd like to tell is actually about my first concert. So my first concert that I went to was maybe 2 years ago now, and it was with my dad on a whim at the Forum back in Los Angeles. Very random, last minute. We go to the show, and my dad tells me once we're at the show, he had seen Tom Petty in Boston in 1979, years back when he was in his residency and with a bunch of nurses and people on staff at the hospital, and they got to see Tom Petty when it was a random show. He didn't even know who he was going to see, and that's when he fell in love, and that was right around the time that Damn the Torpedoes came out. Here he is, 30-something years later, sitting in the Forum with his son, seeing the same band. Mary Jane's Last Dance comes on. So for those of you who don't know, Mary Jane's Last Dance is clearly a reference to a substance, cannabis, marijuana, and in the state of California, it is medicinal. Everyone's singing along to it, and all of a sudden, we see smoke engulfing the entire Forum, haze beyond belief. And my dad and I are up in the skyscrapers watching Tom Petty perform and scream his heart out, and yet we can't help but see everyone around us smoking, having a good time. It's one of those memories that you don't forget. It hit me when I found out Tom Petty died, because I was just listening to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers just the other day, thinking about how much I missed that concert, and looking at the concert ticket itself. We lost another good one. It's very sad and unfortunate. I'd like to send my condolences and my warmest feelings and good vibes to Tom Petty family and everyone who was close to him. Tom Petty was one of the most influential musicians for my parents' generation, and let's jump right into it today, guys. We got a lot to talk about. So, in big news, I got to talk about the Celtics Hornets. Now, this might not seem like a big deal because it is a preseason basketball game. At the beginning of it, I was a little skeptical, I'll admit. Watching this team kind of come together, you really don't know what the culture, the vibe, the atmosphere of Celtics basketball is anymore. And to be fair, this was said by Jaylen Brown himself recently when he said, it changes the whole dynamic, the whole culture. We'll see if it's good or bad. The time will tell. But it's still a little weird to me, to be honest, because when I came in, everything was stressed culture, environment, Celtic basketball. Now it's like, what is our culture and what is Celtic basketball? Well, this came, mind you, pre-training camp. So, although it seems to be still a prevalent issue, the team has definitely gotten a lot better, and we've seen this recently. Now, during the game, I loved seeing Marcus Smart hit threes beyond belief. It didn't make any sense to me because he's worked on his shot. He looks good. He's slimmed down. I love what I'm seeing from him. But the best moment of the game, by far, was Marcus Smart hitting a three and watching the entire Celtics bench, Kyrie Irving and everyone, get up and cheer that man on.
And as big as he is, oh, what a nice play.
That was the moment when I realized, okay, it's starting to become a team. This is Celtics basketball. This is getting back to it. We're starting to get back to the grassroots. Kyrie Irving looked good. He scored 9 points. Gordon Hayward looked good as well. They weren't necessarily put in situations where they had to get pressure. I mean, let's be real. It's preseason basketball. No one's going to push their stars hard. Although this offseason has been so many different moves, everyone wants to watch the preseason just to see these guys get to play together for the first time. I remember the feeling I had watching this Celtic team play together was the feeling everyone had, including myself, when the Miami Heat first came together and we really wanted to see if Bosh, Wade, and LeBron could play together and function in one atmosphere. We're starting to get to see that. I think that we're going to get to see a lot more from the Celtics team coming soon. Seeing that cheering moment was the biggest emphasis that this team is coming together. I can't stress it enough. Seeing team spirit and hustle like that is when you start seeing teams come together and actually forming a bond. And it's in the little moments and nuances of things like that that we will see Celtic basketball start coming out. And bleeding green will happen again. While that is going on in the NBA, there is even much more going on And some of this stuff actually blew my mind. Let's get right to the GM survey projections. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I definitely made my top 5 predictions before the season started, of which one of them was most improved player of the year would be Jabari Parker, and the year before it was Giannis Antetokounmpo. This year, well, sounds like my predictions definitely weren't anywhere in the ballpark of the GMs. I'm listing a couple things that I found interesting from these player surveys. Most GMs voted on best player at each position, and the starting 5 that they came up with was point guard with Steph Curry, shooting guard James Harden, small forward LeBron James, power forward Anthony Davis, and center Karl Anthony Towns. I don't have a problem with 1 through 3. I have no problem 1 through 3 at all. My surprises come with Karl Anthony Towns. Not that I have a problem with him, it's just I think he's young, and although it was blatantly obvious, it just didn't hit me to pick him yet, if that makes sense. I think he needs another year or two to be that guy. But I do agree, GMs voted Cat as the most wanted player to start your franchise with, and that I completely get and agree with. I mean, look at the man. He's the perfect prototypical NBA player that people want today. A big that can stretch the floor, shoot the 3, run down the paint, rebound, block. He's literally a Swiss Army knife that's willing to do it all on a nightly basis. That man deserves to be on there. But my surprise and my critical analysis comes with Anthony Davis. Everyone gives me crap for this. I get it. It's Anthony Davis. He's a great player. He was rated number 3 in the league a couple of years ago. He was the most wanted player to start a franchise with. Yada yada yada. Guy hasn't played a healthy season. I don't care what you say. I don't care the talent level. I'll give up on a guy just like Joel Embiid. I think I heard it the other day. Someone said I'd trade a Joel Embiid. I mean, partially, I probably would. Let's be realistic for a moment, people. This guy has not played a full healthy season, let alone played in a deep playoff run. Until I can see an 82-game season from Anthony Davis, or at least making into the playoffs and winning a series, he is not my starting center. I mean, starting power forward. I'm sorry. I would much rather have a guy, 1, that I know could win, and 2, that I can count on to be in the game at least more than a fourth of the season, more than a third, more than half. I don't know the statistics, people, but I know that from watching the last couple of years, I've seen less of Anthony Davis on the court than I have actually in a street uniform. Once we see that, we'll see where that goes. The next big surprise came with Rookie of the Year. Well, actually, not so much a surprise, but definitely interesting because GMs voted for Rookie of the Year, Lonzo Ball. As much as people are saying it's not a surprise, there's all this hype around Lonzo, and don't get me wrong, I'm a victim of it too. LeVar got us hyped up. He spoke him going to the Lakers into existence, yada, 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 whatever. But he's on the right team to have all that hype. He's in the right market to be hyped up that way, and he didn't leave home. He went to UCLA and went to the Lakers. He's in the perfect place to win Rookie of the Year. And as much as I respect Markelle Fultz and his scoring ability and the fact that people rated him the number 1 overall pick, it's really Lonzo Ball's award to lose at this point. And now for MVP. Again, like no surprise for the last 5 years, who'd they vote for? Number 23 in Cleveland. LeBron James won the MVP conversation with 50% of the vote again. What should we note about LeBron is that he's been picked the last 5 times since 2013, but hasn't won one since the Miami campaign. Kevin Durant came up in the conversation as well, and I can see why his stock is rising, especially with the MVP Finals campaign he put together and how it's starting to really turn into, I don't want to say that it's LeBron's era is over in basketball because that is false beyond belief, but it is definitely turning into a shared era of Kevin Durant and LeBron James, because at one end of the spectrum you have LeBron in the East. On the other end you have Kevin Durant trying to do kind of what LeBron did out in the East, but he'll have done what LeBron did, but did it better. But also Westbrook was mentioned in the conversation as well, and out of respect to him, anyone that breaks the Big O's record deserves to be in that conversation, but let's be real, man. You teamed up with Carmelo Anthony and Paul George. You're not going to be getting 30 points a game per night. If anything, your assist total will go up, but your scoring definitely is going to suffer. He still will probably average a triple-double in some facet, I think, and the team will definitely play well. The next big bit of news and changes with the NBA is the draft. This is probably the biggest change next to the All-Star format, which we'll get right into. I like what they did with the draft. The changes to the draft officially begin in 2019, and the NBA is trying to crack down on players and teams tanking. We've had this problem for years. We've seen teams continuously tank. Remember, we had Riggin for Wiggins. We had the 96 draft when we had Tim Duncan try and come out. It's just known. Yet it happens. It's a business. The NBA is a business, and you do what you can. We got Hinkie with the process, and look what happened there. They're still trash, but, they're trash with a couple of shiny pieces of trash in the mixture of trash. So look at it like that, Sixers fans. But now the league is trying to flatten, quote-unquote, flatten the chances of the lottery, meaning that the top 4 worst teams will have an even 14% chance at landing the number 1 overall pick. That's right. The worst 4 teams in the NBA, not worst 3, and it's no longer 28, 16, and 8 or whatever the percentages are. It is 14 across the board for the 4 worst teams in the NBA. And that definitely flattens the odds, and it also makes it a lot better for the league. For those of you who don't know, the league has continuously had a tanking problem, and it probably will continue to have a tanking problem, but this definitely evens the playing field. As well as doing a 14% flatlining for the worst teams, they're now bumping the chances of teams elsewhere in the lottery as well to give them a better chance at getting a better pick or anything like that. The NBA also put a fail-safe system into this. The top pick, number 1, whoever wins that, cannot slide farther than the 5th pick. And then the second can't slide farther than the 4th, and so on. Whoever is the top 4 worst teams in the NBA are guaranteed a top 5 pick period in the draft, which I like personally, although I'm definitely a fan of ripping off the Brooklyn Nets like we have, being the Celtics for the last couple of years. I definitely think it's time that the NBA start taking a hard, firm stance on tanking, because we've seen what the Sixers have done, and Stephen A. Smith had put it best, saying that that's theft against the fans' wallets. You are stealing money and telling fans to come watch a product that is subpar, and you know it. And I agree. I think that the NBA needs to crack down on tanking. Although it is a business aspect and where you want to have good players, you shouldn't be doing it like that. You are running away your own business and you're not helping yourself. The next big change that the NBA has made is with the All-Star game, and this is probably one of the most intriguing ones, and I think this is also the one that can be most criticized out of all the changes that they've made this summer. And I'd like to take a moment to commend the NBA for all the changes that they have made, because they are truly trying to push this organization in a better direction to really curb all of the issues fans had while alleviating the issues players had and finding that true middle ground in between. I think the All-Star game formatting is the ultimate middle ground. It'll be player chosen rosters from a pool of players chosen by the fans. So essentially, fans get to vote for their All-Stars regardless of conference. You get to pick your All-Stars, vote them in, and then whoever the top vote getters are, i.e. previously it's been LeBron James in the East, and then the last couple of years it's been split between Steph Curry and Kobe Bryant, whoever the team captains are, pick their rosters regardless of conference, meaning players can pick their best friends or they can pick their worst enemies, and they all play together. The hope is here, on one end, the players will pick their friends, and it will spark a more competitive atmosphere between players overall. Because let's face it, the last couple All-Star games have not gone well, and specifically the last All-Star game ended with a score of 196 to 173. That was crap. Utter crap. There was no defense played in that game, and it looked like everyone was just kind of running suicides and shooting shots when they could. In order to change that, the NBA is now taking a firm stance on the All-Star game. I think the NBA is making all the right moves. And since they're making all the right moves, we got to say, there are other people making all the right moves in sports. And who are we talking about now? That is George Foreman, baby. Yes, George Foreman. You know, the man that's on your grill? Well, I guess you're going to have to find out more when we come right back from this quick commercial break. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for taking that quick commercial break with me. So we're getting right back to the George Foreman story. What do I mean by George Foreman is back? It could be that he's getting in the ring. His opponent is the Bamf of all Bamfs, Steven Seagal. Yes, you heard that. Steven Seagal. Every 90s dad's favorite action movie hero. Steven Seagal has been challenged by George Foreman via Twitter to enter the ring. Specifically, Foreman posted a photo of Steven Seagal stating, "Steven Seagal, I challenge you one-on-one. I use boxing, you can use whatever. 10 rounds in Vegas." The internet went crazy for all this, and I can see why. I mean, I'm going crazy myself just thinking about the potential of seeing Steven Seagal fight George Foreman and maybe get hit in the head with a grill. I don't know. I think that's funny. Just seeing someone get hit in the head with a grill, especially a George Foreman grill by George Foreman, I think that'd be hysterical. See, Benz is laughing in the background. None of you guys can see that, but I definitely made her laugh, so I'm happy. You know, I'd love to see these two brutes in the ring. I'm really hoping that whatever they're doing this for, it's in some connection to the recent events that occurred in Las Vegas, and they are planning to donate all the proceeds, or some of which, to the city to help with what's going on. When I first saw the article, I assumed that's what it was connotated with. Nothing has been written yet, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'd love to see that fight. I'd love to see that happen. But we got one more topic to really cover that I'm kind of pissed off about. We're going into it, man. We're talking about the Patriots. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start, Benz. Allie Benz, everyone, is a Steelers fan, so her opinion does not matter regardless of what's going on with what I'm saying, but she's definitely taking lots of joy and pride in knowing that my Pats are 2-2. The Patriots this year are not the 16-0 team that most people predicted. Let's just face it. Instead, they find themselves struggling with the Texans and losing to the Panthers, which is not Patriot basketball. I said basketball, which is not the Patriot way. Not to mention the 2 losses and almost 3 losses if it weren't for the heroics of Brady at
Brady, pump, Brady rifles to the corner. Oh, it's caught! Touchdown! Brandon Cooks! Incredible!
Tom Brady is forced to put up 30 points a game, and when he scores 30 points or under this season, it has resulted in a loss. And that's just pitiful. As great as Brady is, nobody can compete with opponents putting up numbers like they have against this defense. You can't allow a team to put up over 30 points in a week, period. No matter what you do, you can't have people scoring 30 points a game on you. The interesting thing about the Pats now, the defense ranks top 5 in the NFL right now in takeaways through the first 4 games. So you generally associate those numbers with a high caliber defense. Well, generally. The defense actually allows 32 points per game, which is 31st in the NFL, only behind the Colts. That's not the Patriot way, and it's not the way you get back to the Super Bowl. Brady shouldn't be expected to put up 33 points a game just to win the football game. This defense either takes the ball away or allows points on the board. There's no in between. I think it's time to look at different schemes to throw at these offenses, especially when you know it's not the coaching's fault. If the defense can't get it together, you can't expect to win very often, even giving up points the way they are. I'm betting the Pats turn their luck around as they've done many times before. In the last 10 years, Belichick has only had one season where he had 6 losses, and that was the year that Brady was out with the torn ACL. Since then, he's maintained a steady fluctuation between 3 to 4 losses, which has been the very much appreciated amount number-wise for the Patriots fans. Patriots are coming off a Super Bowl year. Sure, they're coming off that afterglow, that Super Bowl winning light, that shimmer, the coming back to reality moment. But it's the New England Patriots, folks. Come on. I'd say you can expect the defense to come out fired up against Tampa Bay, and hopefully show the NFL that this defense isn't someone you want to go up against. If they allow another 30-point game, though, then it's time to be concerned. You can't ever count out a team QB by Brady or Coach Belichick, let alone a team with both. And through their first 4 games, it was a loss at Kansas City, a win at New Orleans, win at Houston, and loss at Carolina. As a Pats fan, I can't stand this, and I'm sure as heck aware that Bill Belichick can't. Come on, Pats Nation. Let's get behind our Patriots. Let's be realistic. No one's going to stop us, not the Steelers, not anyone. Pay attention, Benz. Now we're going over to baseball. We got to talk about the Red Sox. I got to give a shout out to my boys in red over there. They ended their regular season with a 93-69 record, just enough to put them 2 games over the Yankees for the first in the American League East Division. Thank you, Benz. Boston plays their first game in the American League Division Series against the Houston Astros tonight at 4 p.m. Eastern Time and can be seen on the MLB Network or via the MLB at Bat app. Things to note, though, the Astros won the regular season series 4-3. 6 of the games were decided by 3 or fewer runs, 2 of the lowest strikeout rates, and also the Red Sox racked up a $15,000 champagne booze tab. They're pretty excited, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I would be myself. Another thing I'd like to note, though, is the Yankees. As much as I am a Red Sox fan and despise the Yankees, I hate the Knicks, Jets, Nets, Buffalo. Man, I used to have that Family Guy skit down pat where it was like Knicks, Nets, Jets, Bills. Like, Peter Griffin just went through all of them and just insulted them. Well, my point being, as much as I hate New York teams, fans, and players as much as anyone else should on this earth, the Yankees were also able to slide into the postseason. They won their wild card game on Thursday against the Minnesota Twins and play their next game tonight at 7:30 against the Indians. And might I say, just as a baseball fan, that Yankee game was awesome. It was great. I'll admit it. They were saved by that bullpen, and finally when they needed them most. I recognize those guys are all talented, but they finally lived up to that hype the other night. And not to mention, Aaron Judge has just looked really, really good. Those Yankees are playing with house money. They're young guns. I don't know. It's like watching, as my mom says about the Warriors when they play basketball, it's like watching kids out in the playground, just playing ball, doing it their way. And one other thing to note, Big Papi is going to be joining FX Sports for the playoff coverage. So tune into that. Be aware. Now, my last topic that I'd like to cover today is one of which that I'm not proud to cover. Unfortunately, it is the comments made by Cam Newton. Now, for those of you who haven't heard, during the post-game interviews just a couple days ago, Cam was asked by a reporter, Jordan Rodriguez from the Charlotte Observer, about running routes, just simple routes. And Cam had this to respond with.
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes.
To make matters worse, the Panthers spokesperson Steve Drummond stated, "I have spoken with Jordan and Cam, and I know that they have had a conversation where they expressed regret for using those words. We strive as a department to make the environment for the media comfortable for everyone covering the team. Before I go any further, I'd like to take a moment to recognize that Cam Newton's comments are blasphemy, idiotic, and childlike. Think about what you're saying, man. You are a face of the NFL. Everyone knows who you are at this point. Regular season MVP, a guy who choked in the Super Bowl at one point. You know that you are on public access. You know people follow you, and you know that you are clearly a quote-unquote role model to certain kids. Then act like one. Step up. Don't make stupid comments like that. Women have been in sports reporting for years, a lot longer than you've been alive, Cam. Get used to it. It's gonna happen. This gets even worse when Jordan took to Twitter to actually and respond to this. She quoted saying, "This afternoon, I did my job as an NFL beat writer and asked Cam Newton a question about his receivers. I was dismayed by his response, which not only belittled me, but countless other women before me, besides me, who work in similar jobs. I sought Mr. Newton out as he left the locker room. A few minutes later, he did not apologize for his comments." So 2 things that I'd like to note right there. 1, the Panthers organization just got caught in a lie. Flat lie. They just lied saying that they had talked with the actual writer, they had worked it out, and Cam himself had apologized. None of that happened, at least as the reporter claims. None of that occurred. If that's the case, Cam Newton needs to step up and the Panthers organization needs to step up and say that they are sorry, 1, and 2, they need to address comments directly made by Cam, and Cam needs to own up to it. Whether he believes me or not, I'm a nobody to him. But just because I'm one nobody doesn't mean that all the other nobodies out there don't share a similar opinion. The similar opinion being that sports reporting is done by both males and females. If anyone knows their routes and if anyone knows what they're doing at the level to be questioning you, Cam Newton, clearly they must know what a route is and they must know what's going on in the game of football. Especially if they're going to put a question worded specifically about Devin Funchess running routes. Mr. Face of the NFL, my butt. Well, I'd like to say thank you for everyone for tuning in today. It's been a marvelous show. I'm very glad I was able to do this one with you. Thank you to my little helper friend host, Allie Benz, for helping me out with this. Thank you to Heinz Jones. And I'd like to wish everyone a marvelous weekend. I hope everyone has a great week. Stay safe. Baruch Hashem. We'll see you next week.